Okay, so this is level 8, part 2. So if you haven't watched the video for part 1, please do that. It explains some things that you need to know before we get into part 2. So part 2, we're going to compose our melody. So again, a reminder that in level 8, we're learning how to use passing tones, which are notes that belong in the scale, but don't belong in the triad, don't belong in the actual chord. Okay? And we call them passing tones because we want to pass over them. We don't want to sit on them. We don't want to hold them. We don't want to highlight them so much or make them stick out. We just pass over them and still are focusing on the notes in the triad. Okay, so in part 1, we entered our chords at the bottom, our triad chords, and that's going to provide some harmony for our melody. Okay, so I've decided that for this little exercise, I'm going to stick with a dotted quarter note, eighth note kind of rhythmic theme. So I'm going to use dotted quarters and eighth notes a lot and kind of make a rhythmic idea for my melody. So I'm going to start up on C here. And I'm going to make C a long note, a dotted quarter note, because it belongs in the triad. I'm going to enter a D, which doesn't belong in the triad. So I'm going to make that just an eighth note. Okay, and then E up here, there we go, belongs in the triad. So I'm going to make that a long one. And I'm going to end with a G up here. Okay, so I've got C, E, G, all triad notes, but I've also added a D, which is in between C and E. So the notes in the middle of the triad, C, D, E, are really good passing tones to use. Okay, I'm going to go back and use an E, and that belongs in the triad, so I'm going to make that I'm using my dotted quarter note, eighth note rhythmic theme. Okay, actually, you know what? This time I'm going to just make it a quarter note. And then I'll do another E. Down to C. E, D, C. And I'm going to make that a dotted quarter note. And then I'm going to go down to A. Okay, so here we've got C, E, G, which is fine. That belongs in the triad. We've got E, 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 C, but we also have some D's, D, D, and we have an A that doesn't belong in the triad. But you can see I'm just passing over those notes. I'm making those the quick notes. I'm making those the ones that we don't sit on too much, okay? And of course, I planned out what I was going to write beforehand, so I knew exactly what I wanted mine to look like. So as I've said before, you're going to be doing a lot more experimenting. You're not just going to know exactly what you want to write like I do in the videos. Okay, so let's fast forward and look at my finished melody. And what I've done here, just like in Mary Had a Little Lamb, I showed you the notes that we used as passing tones that don't belong in the triad. So here I've highlighted all the notes that don't belong in the triad. So all the passing tones that I've used in my melody. Just checking the time. Okay. So you don't have to change the color. You don't have to highlight this. I'm just doing this just so that you can see where I've used passing tones. So, and they're all basically shorter notes. We're never holding a passing tone. We're never stopping on a passing tone. That's not an ending note that we would use. Okay, it's only leads to somewhere else where we have a nice harmony. Okay, but I've got some passing tones for every chord. So here we've got a D that doesn't belong, a D and an A that don't belong, an A that doesn't belong, a B that does not belong, G and B do not belong in F major. Again, B and G don't belong in F major. And A does not belong in G major. So in this level, we're really opening you up in your options for what notes you can use. But you'll also notice that I'm still focusing on the triad: C, E, G, E, E, C, E minor, B, G, E, A minor, A, C, F major, F, A, C, A, F, A, G major, G, B, D, and C major, C. And I would never, for this, at this point in composition, I would never end on a note that is not a triad note. I would always going to make sure that that last ending note is a nice sounding triad harmony. Okay, so let's listen to my melody starting down here, and you're going to hear the chords playing at the bottom, and you're going to hear and listen to what the passing tones sound like. And remember that we're passing over them. We're not sitting on them. We're not holding them. We're not focusing on them. We're just using them in between the triad notes that we've been focusing on for all the levels so far. So here is my melody with some passing tones. Okay, so I think that sounds really nice. Now, you'll notice that I've really got a rhythmic theme that I'm repeating over and over again, aren't I? This quarter note, dotted quarter, eighth note, dotted quarter, eighth note, dotted quarter, eighth note, dotted quarter, eighth note, and so on and so on. Now, these chords down here are an important part of this level because these chords help you hear, do the passing tones sound okay? If you're listening and you've got the chords and the passing tones that you're using, the notes that you're using, if it sounds really weird, if it sounds not good, then you need to focus more on those triad notes and just use a little bit of passing tones. Okay, so your melody should still have lots and lots of triad notes and just a few passing tones, one, maybe two passing tones in each bar, focusing on the triad notes. Okay, so let's listen to it one more time and then I'm going to call it done. Okay, so once you've composed a melody that has some chords on the bottom, that has some passing tones along with the usual triad notes that we use, then you are done level 8. Don't forget to save and to connect. Okay.